Okay, I have one last trick for you here. We're going to try this, and this is going to get into something we didn't talk about yet. So this is something very, very new. For the trick, I'm just going to need a few cards here. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. And these are the only cards that we need. It really doesn't matter what they are. We just need those 8. And we're going to separate these into 2 piles here very quickly because we're going to make some decisions here. First of all, could you please, of the 2, just point to one pack. Select one pack. That one right there? Perfect. Okay, what I'm going to do is I want to secure that pack that you've selected here. We're going to put something on it. I have a coin. I'll put that on there so that it stays out of the way and nobody touches it. Nobody's going to go near those cards. So of these cards that we have left here, I've got 4 cards. We'll put those into 2 piles. Could you select a pile for me? Select a pile for me. This one right here? Good. So I'll take this one here, and I'm going to put something on that. Okay, so we've got one over here. We've got one over here. That means that there's 2 cards left, just 2 cards left. And what I want you to do is that I want you to turn over one of those cards. You can pick any one to turn over. So let's say that you reach down and you pick this one, and you turn this one over. And it says, good choice. Good choice. And I just want to point out something, that you could have turned this one over. This one has nothing on it. We could have used these cards. This has nothing on it. And we could have used these cards, and this has nothing on it either. Okay? But you selected that one. Now, this is a really, really, really good method, sometimes called the magician's choice. The real word for it is equivoque. It's kind of a long word, kind of a funny word. Some people will call it equivoque. I think they're mispronouncing it. It's really equivoque. And what it means is that you are taking something and you're making it such that it can really mean anything. You're making it equal to something completely different in a manner. And what you're doing is you're confusing its meaning. You're making it such that the meaning of these 2 things is very unclear. Okay, making multiple things equal to each other, such that they really don't have a meaning. They don't have anything separating them. And this has to do with the choices that are being made. So here's how the trick works. You're going to have a card that has, it could be a card where you write the prediction down somewhere else. You would write Queen of Hearts somewhere, or you have a duplicate sitting somewhere else, maybe out in the open. With something sitting on top of it. And by the way, this is a good use of, I talked about before, meaningless props. Using just meaningless props for the sake of confusing the audience a little bit. So I'm using a coin to keep something safe. I don't really need to use that. I'm using a pen to keep something over here. These just kind of confuse the audience. They really don't serve any purpose at all. We're just getting them in the way so that they have something to think about and to ponder. Well, what is the coin for? What's the pen for? But you take one card, I put the sticky note on it that says good choice, and that's sitting at the bottom of all 8. You can have many layers of equivoque questions, but it's better if you limit it to just 3 or so, 2 or 3 kind of layers. Because if you get beyond that, then people start to realize, they can kind of work backwards and realize that they're not really making decisions on their own. Okay, so I have these 8 cards with the one on the bottom with the tag on it, and that's sitting on top of the deck. So at the onset, this looks very natural. This doesn't look like it's been prepared in any way, and I don't need to show everything. I just say that I need 8 cards. So I thumb off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I want to make sure that they stay in that order so I know that my 8th card is on the bottom. You could do it on the top, but it's very important that you know where the choice card is at, and that you're able to end up with that. So it's on the bottom in this case. What I do then is I take 4 of them, and I put them in a pile over here, and then I put 4 over here. Now my choice card is in the bottom of that pile. And the first question that I ask is I ask the spectator to point to any pile. Or I could say select any pile, okay? I don't really say choose one, because that kind of assumes that they're keeping it for themselves, or that's what we're going to work with. I just say point to or select. And the reason why this is equivoque is that that doesn't have a meaning. What are they choosing it for, if you follow this? They could be choosing it to throw away, or they could be choosing it to keep. I haven't said. I just said select one. Okay, point to one. If they point to this pile, which doesn't have the choice card, I would say, perfect. I set that aside, and then I pretend like it's important by putting a coin on it. Okay, it's not really important, but I can pretend by using a meaningless prop, okay, to set that aside. You don't have to do that, but it's confusing. It's helpful to make it confusing. If they pick this one, I say, great, we'll work with this one, and I'll set this one aside over here, okay? I might not even use the prop at that point, okay? I would just set it aside. The next question that I say, after I split this into 2 packs, and my card is over here, the one I want to end up with, is I say, can you select one of these for me? Select one for me. And what that means is it could mean you're going to select one that I'm going to work with, or you're going to select one that I'm going to keep. I'm not clear on it. You don't really know what I mean by that. I just said select one for me. If you say this one, I'll say, great, I'll hang on to this one. This one's mine, and I'm just going to set this aside. Okay, and I put something else on it, another meaningless prop. If you said this one, say, great. I would say, great, I'm going to keep this one to myself. We're left with these, okay? So either way, it looks like you're making decisions, but you're not really making any decisions. So now we're left with these 2. Either these are ones that I have and I've left the other ones out here with something on them, or they're the ones that are left out here and I've kept these and put something on it. I now have my choice card over here and then 1 choice over here. Now the last one is really off-putting because what I say really does seem like a choice, right? I ask the spectator, turn one of those cards over. Now, in our example, we have what we call the perfect outcome. The perfect outcome is that they turn over the card that has the sticky note on it, and that really to them feels like they chose it for themselves, okay? Now, they could have turned over that one. You may have turned over this card. And what I would do is I would say, perfect. You turned over that card. I want you to turn over all the other cards here too. If we turn these over, you can see what they are. You see what the identities. So we're going to turn over all of these cards that we've set aside. These are the ones that we've turned over. That leaves just this one here that you left, the one you did not turn over. Let's take a look at it. And then you see that sticky note. So it doesn't matter what the spectator chooses. By going through certain motions and completing their decision for them, you can make them end up on this card, and it really feels like a free choice. So that is equivoque, and that's a very easy thing to do. It doesn't require any skill, but it does require you to get your words right. Okay, so select, point to, right? Choose for me, pick for me, okay, as if it's coming to you and it's going to you. There's a lot of different ways that equivoque can be used. This is just a very basic form of it. So you can have fun with that anytime that you're choosing different piles. And you can use this as a layer of any other trick. If you know of a card that's a selected card within the deck and they don't know what they've selected and it's been written down or something like that, or someone else selected, you can make somebody else select a card that someone else selected from a pile by going through equivoque, and that looks pretty good too. So that's all I have for tricks. We've covered just about everything we've talked about. I'm going to end here with a little segment on some final thoughts here for you. Some final thoughts for you. As you're learning these different ideas that I'm sharing with you, these very simple methods and very simple elements, different parts that you can use to put together a trick and make many different tricks out of just a few different principles and a few different ideas. First of all, you should always be yourself. Do not try to be someone else. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't watch other people perform and emulate things that they do, but you should always behave as yourself. Talk the way that you do. Talk the way that you talk. Say things that you would say. Behave the way that people know that you behave. Do not quickly switch into another mode when you go to do tricks for people. No one will pay attention to you. They really won't take you seriously if you do that. You need to act the way that you do. If you joke around a lot when you're doing your tricks, okay? If you don't joke around a lot and you're a pretty serious person, don't try to tell jokes when you're doing your tricks. Try to be the person that you are. That's the best way for people to accept what you're doing without raising any suspicion. The second thing, practice out loud. Practice out loud. So when you're practicing, do it by yourself. We used to say you'd practice in front of a mirror. I still practice in front of a mirror. And that's not just so you can see what it looks like. You practice in front of a mirror so you can kind of see yourself and see the way you're behaving and get kind of the tone right and get all the talking right. Practice out loud. Use a mirror. Even better, with today, with cell phone technology and computers that have cameras, you can record yourself very easily at home. So record yourself and watch it back and do it over and over again. And when you're pleased with the way you sound and the way it feels and the way it looks, that's when you know that you've got it right. At the same time, don't be so critical that you're upset that you don't look like someone else. Again, be yourself. You want to look at your performance and think, does it look clean? Do I know what I'm saying? And am I saying it in a way that I sound like myself? Do I sound like me when I'm performing? Okay? You need to practice what you say. Talking needs practice. So that's probably the thing that needs the most practice. Sometimes we think we need to practice the moves and that's what you practice. That requires some attention for sure. But really the hardest thing about doing a trick is the talking. You need to practice what you're saying out loud and do it over and over again so that it becomes automatic and that you do it without thinking very hard about it. Okay? So talking needs practice. Practice through your mistakes. If you make a mistake, have a plan for that. You might have one trick that you can do that is very, very simple and very straightforward. And if something goes wrong in another trick that's more complicated, you ought to be able to change what you're doing and go do that one trick that's very simple. Okay, so for example, if I'm doing a trick with a key card, and I know my key card is the Jack of Spades, and someone takes the card and they look at it, right, like this, and before I can do anything about it, before I can, have them put it on top and put it in there, they try to stuff it back in there. First of all, I want to be practicing my audience management so things like that never happen. Okay, I want to be able to say, go ahead and take a look at your card, and then I want you to put it right there. Okay, I want to be ahead on my instructions so that people aren't trying to do things. Now, if they're being really, quite frankly, mean about it, and they're trying to slip you up and do other things, you want to have a plan for that. Okay, so I don't know what their card is at this point. I got to look and see. Two of Hearts. I don't know that they picked the Two of Hearts. I do know that somehow my trick didn't work and they put it back in there. Okay, I have no idea what to do at this point. My trick that I planned on can't work. So practice that. What are you going to do? What are you going to do in this situation? Well, you have a few opportunities here to try something different. Okay, you might say, now, of course, there's no way I could know what it is. There's no way that I could find it in there. It's completely lost to me. I'm not even sure what it is. How could I possibly know where that card is, right? I can't find it, but maybe you can find it again. What was the card? Tell me, what was the card you were thinking of? The Two of Hearts? Is that what it was, right? So you have them tell you what it was, and then you find it, right? And you say, here it is, the Two of Hearts. Now let's pretend for a moment that you could find your card, right? Let's say that you were doing the magic trick. And then you could say, let me just quickly shuffle these cards up, and you shuffle it the way you know how, and really I just transferred it to the bottom. And then you would say, let me shuffle it again here very quickly. We'll do that, right? And I still kept it on the bottom, even though I cut it a few times there. And then I can go straight into another trick where I'm forcing their card back on them. Okay, so I could have them do that crisscross force, and I could write it down, or I could just have them cut there and say, wouldn't it be amazing if you could cut to the card that you selected freely? Wouldn't that be amazing if you could pick it twice, the same card? And then I can show them that they did pick the same card. So that is an option. If you have a good overhand shuffle, a way to do this would be to, of course, find the card out and say, so this is the card. See, I can't find it. There's no way that I could find it. And if you can do an overhand shuffle, you can shuffle it to the bottom, and then this is nice and tricky. On your overhand shuffle, when you pick up the pack again to do another round, you just hold on tight to that bottom card and steal it back and shuffle it back on top again. And now I've retained it at the bottom, and I can do the same crisscross force. Okay, so practice through your mistakes. Have a plan for when things go bad. The next thing here is practice the easy stuff. Practice the easy stuff a lot. And practice the hard stuff. Practice both, the easy stuff and the hard stuff, but only ever perform the easy stuff. Only ever perform the things that are easy for you. And once you've practiced the hard stuff enough that it becomes easy, that's when it's ready to perform. Do not try hard things before you have it mastered. Okay? Practice the hard stuff, but perform the easy stuff. And the last thing I'm going to tell you is to invent. Make sure you invent new ideas. Use the things that you've worked on and create new ideas from those things. Create new presentations. Come up with new revelations and invent. Create new things. So with that, I leave it to you, and I wish you the very best of luck. Happy magicking.